What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me again on another Supplement Sunderday, a day of the week that we have made up where we're getting together to go over a supplement that I have researched over the week. All the things I was never taught in pharmacy school. So let's just dive right in today. What are we talking about? Well, I know you already know. We're talking about the New Zealand green lipped mussel. The New Zealand green lipped mussel. Well, what is this? Well, it's exactly what I just said. It is a mussel. It is native to the New Zealand coast. There's actually two species of this mussel, one being the Perna canaliculus, the other being the Perna viridis. Now, the Perna canaliculus is the one that is native to the New Zealand coast. They farm these mussels commercially to raise as a crop in New Zealand and in Thailand. All right, so we're gonna start out with my fun fact, which is gonna be a once upon a time. So listen up. Once upon a time, there was a tribe of native people called the Maori tribe. They lived along the coast of New Zealand. These folks lived off the land. They used the resources that were there for them. And a big staple in their diet were these New Zealand green-lipped mussels. Well, the English came in to invade this island and take over this island. And when that happened, of course, there were doctors on this ship. And they get off the ship and notice that these folks, no matter what their age, do not seem to struggle with the degenerative issues that we all struggle with. Number one, being arthritis. They did not have these degenerative diseases. So, pretty fascinating as doctors' minds work. They want to figure this out, right? Well, the English take over this island. Okay, so these Maori people are moved inland off of the coast, and their diet changes as they move inland. They don't have the access to these mussels like they did in the past. Well, these doctors come in and visit about 5 years later to check out and see how this Maori tribe of folks are doing. And lo and behold, these people are starting to struggle with arthritis and degenerative issues. So they put two and two together and started researching this mussel because that was the thing that had dramatically changed in their diets. And they come to find that this mussel is rich in liprinol. Okay, liprinol. So this liprinol is a coined term that we're going to use, and that is used because it's a class of 5 different lipid classes. So being sterile esters, being triglycerides, being free fatty acids, being sterols, and being polar lipids. That's what the liprinol means. All right, time to get into how this thing works. Well, we just talked about what liprinol is, right? So it's rich in anti-inflammatory fatty acids, being omega-3 as the main one, and also EPA and DHA, which we've talked about before. But wait, there's more. So these researchers also identified other fatty acids which possess anti-inflammatory properties by inhibiting enzymes and proteins that trigger that inflammatory process in our bodies. Another thing these researchers found within this New Zealand green-lipped mussel was chondroitin sulfate. And you're all familiar with chondroitin, right? Glucosamine chondroitin, very popular supplement people use for joint issues. So this chondroitin is found naturally in our connective tissues in our bodies, right? And we supplement that when we start to lose it. So it has everything to do with our joint health. It's also found in our cartilage and the synovial fluid within our joints. But wait, there's even more. So the green-lipped mussel is also rich in zinc. It's an excellent source of iron, of selenium, and of B vitamins. So to wrap up how this thing works, it has everything to do with anti-inflammatory agents and joint protecting compounds. All right, now it's time to get into what this thing does. What does this do practically in our bodies? What is the big deal? Well, because I've said anti-inflammatory so many times, you know what the big deal is. And why is that? Why is keeping inflammation low in our body a big deal? Because low-grade chronic inflammation leads to a higher prevalence of chronic disease. Bottom line. So let's look at this practically. Asthma. Huge, because inflammation is the picture of asthma. That is what's causing that. It's inflammation in our airways, in our lung passages, that causes the wheezing, that causes all the issues. So what this New Zealand green lip mussel does, it inhibits leukotriene production. And leukotriene is what is responsible for airway inflammation. It's a mediator of airway inflammation. And when we get these leukotrienes, it induces bronchoconstriction, where our airways close up and constrict, and it also increases mucus secretions. So in studies, they found that it decreases daytime wheezing. It has improved breathing. And best of all, it decreases the use of rescue inhalers. And they are so overused. And I should know, being a pharmacist, because as often as we refill what they consider a rescue inhaler, no. Rescue inhalers are to be used as that for those times where you have an asthma attack. They are not to be used on a regular basis, which most of the time is what's going on. And there have been studies proving this. So in a 3-week study they did where they had the New Zealand green lip mussel and where they used a placebo, they found these patients with asthma had significant decreases in airway inflammation and asthma symptoms. And they repeated the study over an 8-week period and got same results. All right, let's move on. Exercise-induced muscle soreness. And this has to do with the delayed muscle soreness. So, case in point, you're out gardening, right? And you are doing some fancy moves that you haven't done for a while. Maybe squats, right? That you were not intentionally doing as you're gardening. And you get done with that gardening day and you're tired, right? But the next day or the day after that is when you really struggle with those symptoms where your body is kicking back. When the New Zealand green lip mussel has been on board, they have shown that the symptoms of that happening are decreased. So within that 24 to 48 hour time period after you have overdone something, it has shown to decrease that inflammation enough to where you are not having those symptoms. Okay, third thing, ADHD. Now this has been a little sketchy when I read about it, and I read about it in many different sources. So they have found that ADHD inflammatory markers are a part of that picture. So the early research has not been super convincing when it comes to those that are struggling with the hyperactivity part of it, impulsiveness, or the inability to pay attention. It has been shown to be more effective in those where the symptoms are just increased activity and focus issues. So the studies have been done in kids ranging from ages 6 to 14. And over this 8-week study, they did find significant improvements when it came to the inability to pay attention and just overall learning. All right, now let's get on to the obvious one. Osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis, any forms of arthritis where inflammation is the root cause of that disease. And in both instances, a decrease in pain and stiffness has been validated. And again, this has everything to do with blocking this cascade of leukotriene and prostaglandin synthesis, which has everything to do with causing inflammation. And studies that have been done have shown that this to be more effective than glucosamine and chondroitin on its own. All right, the next one, cancer. And this is gonna pop up everywhere, right? Because studies are continually being done in cancer prevention, cancer treatments, and how these supplements, these natural plant-based supplements, can or may make a difference. So studies are preliminary, it's a mixed bag, but it's still pretty fascinating. And the best part, gut health. Not kidding. So the powerful anti-inflammatory properties of this New Zealand green lip mussel has improved gut health because it feeds our good gut bacteria. It acts as a prebiotic. So good gut bacteria, our friendly gut bacteria in our GI tract, which is exactly what we want growing down there and flourishing down there. All right, time to get into some precautions. The obvious one, if you have a shellfish allergy, you need to steer clear of this one. And like so many others, if you have any type of bleeding disorder or clotting disorder, you also need to be very cautious with this. Pregnancy and breastfeeding, the studies just aren't there. The research is not out there, so again, to be cautious. And children. Now we talked about a study done in children, but there is not research done in children 6 years of age or younger. All right, now it's time for the best part. Let's talk Plexus. Let's talk Plexus. There is one product that has New Zealand green lip mussel liprinol as its star ingredient. And if you guys are on the Plexus train already, you know what I'm talking about. We are talking about the Ease. All right, the Ease. This is the stuff, you guys. And when I started with Plexus, I felt no need to be taking Ease. I did not feel like I had inflammation problems, and this was not something that I was going to add to my regimen. However, my husband did have issues. He would come in after the day working in his wood shop, and he'd be doing this, stretching on his hands. And I'm like, what is your deal? Oh, my hands just ache. Okay, well, a bell went off, and I thought, okay, we're gonna see if this makes a difference. We're gonna put him on this and see if this makes a difference. And he was willing, and he started out doing all the right things. Started with the high dosing, worked his way down, and showed relief. He was getting relief from this. So that made me wonder, I wonder what would happen even if I started this at just a maintenance dose, if this would seem to make a difference. And yes, it does, because again, chronic low-grade inflammation is a precursor to having a higher risk of chronic disease. If we can keep inflammation down in our bodies, and yes, there are other Plexus products that help with inflammation, there's no doubt about this, but I don't think there is anybody out there that does not benefit from adding Ease into their regimen. And there are more ingredients in this Ease that make it a fantastic product. I will link those videos in the description box below, so check it out if you haven't had time to watch this yet. And if you are not on the Plexus train and you want to know more information about these products, please visit my website, which I will also link in the description box. So let's get you started to your health goals in the right way, in a plant-based manner. All right, you guys, thanks again for joining me, and cheers to your health and happiness.